To a world where everyone and their sister has a podcast comes another one. Join us weekly as we explore the dark back alleys of irreverence and the spider-infested corners of nerdkind. This is the Irreverent Nerd Podcast. Holy shit. I just saw The Batman. And it was amazing. I am standing out here in the dark on my deck because somehow that just seems fitting. I'm not in like pitch dark. I live in the city, so there's city lights, which, as I said, seems fitting after watching a movie that takes place out on the streets of a city. Yes, in some buildings, but like, oh my. The best Batman movie ever made. And that's, I don't think my opinion is going to change tomorrow after I've had some time to process the movie. And I'm like, oh, well, they could have done that better. There's always going to be something. But, oh my God, the best Batman movie ever made. I was blown away. I expected it to be good, because I'd heard good things about it. But it was like I got pulled into Gotham City, and it was like I became a resident of Gotham City. And I was walking around with the Batman right there. The cinematography was amazing. I loved how intimate it was. I mean, you got right up and personal with Batman and Bruce Wayne and the other characters. Obviously, it helps watching it at an IMAX screen. But still, even so, it's like right there with him. Robert Pattinson knocked it out of the park. Like, somehow, like, you feel the rage. You see the intelligence. Definitely the best presentation of Batman as a detective of any of the live-action movies, by far. There have been some animated movies or animated episodes that did a good job portraying him as such. Live-action movies haven't even come close to this level until this movie. Amazing. You could see the intelligence as he's working out problems. He's just sullen enough, and yet somehow vulnerable. Like, Robert Pattinson, the only other actor who's come close to this is Christian Bale. Live action. But Robert Pattinson, man, he made me feel at times like there was a little 10-year-old boy walking around in that batsuit who was just screaming with the pain of his parents being murdered. Screaming at the world and incredibly vulnerable, but trying so much to be strong and to protect other little boys from harm. By the way, before we go any further, spoiler warning, I'm going to talk about plot points in the film. I know this is like an instant reaction review, but yeah, spoiler warning. So if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. Don't spoil it for yourself. Go see it. You will not regret it. I don't care if you like Batman or not. Go see it. This is an amazing movie. I think it should be nominated for Best Picture come Oscar time. It might be tough, given that it's coming out in March, and obviously that's not necessarily what they're aiming for, but it should be. Absolutely should be nominated come Oscar time. If it's not, I'm going to be pissed. Doesn't mean it has to win, but it needs to be nominated. Fuck yes, it needs to be nominated. So, as someone who has read a decent amount of recent Batman comics, like particularly graphic novels from the last 20 years. I was seeing echoes of The Long Halloween, one of my favorite storylines in the comics for Batman. I was seeing, I think there's 2 parts to that, but I was definitely seeing echoes of The Long Halloween. There was a little bit of Hush in there, another excellent series in the comics. And some Batman Year 1 and Year 2. I loved the relationship that Batman and Jim Gordon had. It's like they were partners, you know. And they did, Nolan did a good job of portraying that, but I felt it even more. And some of it is the nature of this movie. Like, this was absolutely like it was like a police procedural, but with Batman along, you know what I mean? It's, you know, a procedural crime drama. And, oh, man, so good. Jeffrey Wright is an amazing actor. When I found out he was going to be Commissioner Gordon, I was like, yes. And I have to admit, this is better than The Dark Knight. You know, I think Dark Knight was my number 1 Batman movie. Definitely live action, number 1 up until this point, but this has surpassed it. And based on all the hype I was hearing, I was like, I thought I probably would, but I was reserving judgment until I saw it, and yeah. Now, it evoked some similar themes. There's a few beats with the Riddler that reminded me of like the plotting and scheming of the Joker in The Dark Knight, and just some of the themes that are hit on are similar, which obviously, you know, The Dark Knight and Nolan's works were influenced by some of the same comics, like The Long Halloween in particular. So it makes sense that there'd be some echoes there. But I like that they used the Riddler in this. I thought it was perfect for the like this crime procedural, like they're solving puzzle after puzzle of this serial killer. And I love that the Riddler was complex as well. Like, he's not just and until you get towards the end, and again, spoiler warnings, until you get towards the end when he puts the Gotham populace at large at risk, he's just attacking corrupt leaders who have done tremendous harm. Now, the way he does it is despicable. You know, particularly the first murder of the mayor. You know, he gets murdered in his own house, and his son finds him. Oh man, like that scene with Batman and the boy. It's like they made like a soul-to-soul connection there, and then it's kind of echoed later at the memorial service of the mayor when Bruce Wayne is there at the is at the memorial service, and he locks eyes with the mayor's son again. And I liked the twist, and I'm assuming this comes from the comics as well. I'm not familiar with this particular storyline, but where Thomas Wayne was running for mayor, and part of what got him killed was running afoul of Carmine Falcone. Again, if I haven't already told you, spoiler warnings. That was fascinating to me, and I love the interplay between Falcone and the Maroni family. That, you know, but Falcone's a very interesting character in The Long Halloween. I liked the way like his story was told, and the way you kind of get up close and personal with the Falcone family. Oh, sorry, my cell phone light was on in my pocket. I started feeling my leg warm. I was like, what's going on here? Oh man. So I'm going for 30 minutes on this one. I know it's an instant reaction, but this movie is so amazing, and I want to really capture how I feel about it, process it as I'm talking to you here. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Like, man, like what I love about podcast episodes like this is it like gives me new perspectives, helps me think through. Sometimes it pisses me off, you know, because like some people will have opinions about a movie that I really liked, and then they don't like it. Then, you know, especially if I've been listening to their podcast for a while, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, now I don't like that movie as much anymore because of what he said or that part of it. But at the end of the day, it enriches our experience, like to hear what other people have to say about movies, right? Man, there's a reason why Batman is my favorite comic book character, and the same, I think, it's probably fair to say that he might be the most popular comic book character in the world. That might be fair to say. I'd say, he's probably definitely up there, like him and Spider-Man, like, Superman, I'm sorry, man, you're too boring, like, you're too perfect. I know they've made attempts in the comics and in the movies to make that more interesting. I'm not saying I hate Superman, I don't, but Batman's always been more interesting to me. Obviously he's the most vulnerable member of the Justice League because he has no superpowers other than his rage and his intellect, and obviously his wealth helps. But his rage more than anything drives him. His rage and his desire to keep anyone from experiencing what he experienced as a kid. His empathy, really his rage and his empathy are driving him in so many ways. Like his rage at the harm that was done to him, and his rage, he directs that though because of his empathy for others, humans, and his desire to not see the same harm come to them. He directs that rage at criminals who are doing the same. And yes, some of it is out of vengeance, him wanting vengeance for what happened to his parents. But I love at the end, oh my God, oh man. So the ending, I'm going to jump around here, sorry, but the ending with, this is an instant reaction podcast. It's not a procedural, scene by scene breakdown of the movie. The ending of Gotham Square Garden, where Batman's up on the roof and he's carrying an injured Gothamite over to a stretcher so she can be picked up by a helicopter from the National Guard, and as he's narrating, and the narration was perfect, like it was perfectly placed. There was just enough. It wasn't overdone. It was really, I liked it. I liked it. And that fits along with the comics too, because you have that kind of stuff in the comics. Like you'll have narration from Batman in the comics, like kind of when there's like segues in between different scenes or acts of the storyline. There'll be some narration. It'll give you maybe some backstory to him, or just his thoughts, like where he's at, his headspace, that kind of thing. He waxes philosophical sometimes. I love that stuff, and I thought they did just enough of that. But then he talks about the fact, as he's carrying that woman, there's narration where he says, "Vengeance is not enough. I have to become more." And you're seeing him, you're seeing the boy growing up right there, and it's beautiful. And, man, like, Robert Pattinson, yeah, the vulnerability he shows, man, you just feel for him so much. It's like you're there with him, physically, emotionally. Obviously the cinematography is like right there in so much of it. So many good choices made in this. Like I don't know what type of lens they use, but there's a number of scenes where like just the center of the frame was in focus and on the edges was blurred. Like that was used, I think, quite a bit too. I really liked that effect. At first I was like, wait, is he recording did he record on film? I actually still wonder that. I was like, if he recorded on film, if he did, I was like, that's perfect. But if he didn't, it was definitely some form of digital cinematography that mimicked that in some way. I loved it. I loved the grittiness of that. At first I was like, wait, is this not 4K? It's not HD. But I was like, no, wait a minute. This is perfect. The grittiness. it really captures the grittiness of the city, but the intimate moments are center frame, clear, plenty clear enough to capture the emotions of the actors and stuff. Like, yeah, oh man, like, and the whole city's kind of like that, like Gotham is blurry, there's a lot of corruption in Gotham, and yeah, oh yeah, another, and I think I had heard this somewhere, but I definitely saw it. Another really good storyline in the Batman comics is the Court of Owls. I've read that graphic novel as well. Not the whole series, but I think the first one I've read. And what's great about like the Court of Owls and the Hush series is that they really tie into Bruce personally. Like these things hit home with Bruce in a way that some of the other storylines don't always. Like it gets really up close and personal, which this movie did as well, and I loved that about it. And so yeah, but definitely some elements of the Court of Owls, like this high level conspiracy in the city. Different, obviously. I thought they might go there. They ended up tying it into Carmine Falcone as kind of like the mob boss. At one point a character says, no, Carmine Falcone is the mayor. He's been the mayor for 20 years. Others have been his puppets, basically, that he installed. Going back to his decision to kill Thomas and Martha Wayne, or at least they leave that a little ambiguous, which I was a little frustrated with. I actually liked where they were going with that, like the idea that Carmine Falcone may have been directly responsible for the deaths of Bruce's parents. Like, I actually kind of like that. I like that better than the Joe Chill, just a dude out wanting to rob people. The fact that there was something. So I like that they played around with that, and they leave it open. As Alfred's like, I wish I could know for sure. They kind of leave it open, which initially was a little disappointing, but I understand why they do that. They want to leave that line open, probably for future narratives. So we'll see where they go with that. It's obviously a very deliberate choice to play around with that for a while, but then have Alfred say what he said and then leave it a little bit ambiguous as to whether Carmine actually ordered the hit on Thomas and Martha. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of little hits, and I've heard, I think he's got a trilogy planned, which I hope one comes out a year. I hope we don't have to wait more than a year for the next one, but we'll see. Man, that would suck. This movie's so good. I want more of it. Somebody told me it was 3 hours long, but it wasn't 3 hours. It wasn't. Well, actually, no. If you include I guess the runtime, the actual runtime is less than 3 hours. But if you include like the previews, like from the showtime to the time it wrapped, it was roughly 3 hours. But there's always like 20 minutes of previews first for most of these blockbusters. But I missed them because I was running late. So I missed the very beginning. I think when I came in, it was on the subway with they kind of look like Joker clones or something like that. Some kind of gang with painted faces. Speaking of the Joker, pretty sure, again, spoiler warnings running amok here. I'm pretty sure that the man in the cell at Arkham right next to Riddler at the end is meant to, or at least we're meant to think that it's the Joker. I think you see enough of his face that it's not just one side that's scarred, but it's a little ambiguous. It's like, is this Two-Face? Is this the Joker? But then with the maniacal laugh, it's not the distinctive Joker maniacal laugh, but it's still some type of. But it's like, so it's left a little ambiguous. It's like, it could be Two-Face. It's probably more likely to be the Joker. I heard some rumors that the Joaquin Phoenix Joker was going to be tied in with this world, but that doesn't look to be the case because this did not take place in the 70s. At least it didn't seem like it. It's typical with Batman films. There's kind of a mix, because there was like some 80s like taxi cabs and stuff hanging around, but yet some of the tech was obviously more modern, like, and some of the other cars were more modern. So it's really interesting production design choices. Like the Batman universe is often like that, though. It merges time period sometimes with the production design. I kind of like that. It's like, because it's not supposed to be literally our world, if you will. So I like when they play around with that a bit. Okay, so I got 10 minutes left. I definitely want to talk about the relationship between Batman and Catwoman. So, oh man. Definitely by far the best on-screen romance in any Batman movie. Hands down. Like, yeah. Honestly. Like, including animated, like, it was excellent. Nothing else comes close. Like, definitely not Katie Holmes. And, Maggie Gyllenhaal. I like Maggie, but wasn't a big fan of her performance in The Dark Knight, honestly. She was better than Katie, I think it's fair to say. But yeah, and it's not that Zoe Kravitz is a better actress than Maggie Gyllenhaal. Like, I don't think she is. It's Gyllenhaal or Gyllenhaal? I honestly forget. Anyway, they're both excellent actresses, but the way it was written and directed and edited, so much better in this one. Like, there's just enough sexual tension there, but they don't give you a payoff with it. They don't hook up, which I liked that, actually. I was like, maybe they're saving that for another movie, but I liked that they didn't go there, and that was kind of the back and forth, like playing that game, that's more traditional to Batman and Catwoman's relationship. But it really cool. Like, I loved how initially, like, I thought they did a good job of bringing her into the storyline. She had connections to what Batman was investigating, so he started investigating her, found one of the missing women, and as he followed her, that woman was then abducted. And then they get into it together. Like, initially, like, he asks for her help, and she agrees because she wants to find her friend and help her friend. And and then obviously they come to like each other, share a few kisses. I thought it was handled perfectly. Like, I really, really enjoyed the relationship there. Like I said, there was just enough play. Now that I compare, I do think, and again, this is not because I'm saying Zoe Kravitz is a better actress than Anne Hathaway, or and I need to look up her name, but the actress who played Selena Kyle / Catwoman in the animated series did an excellent job. Her voice acting was amazing. I've never bothered to see the Halle Berry movie. I think Halle would forgive me for that. I've just heard so many bad things about it. I have not bothered. And to be honest with you, someday I will revisit it, but I was not impressed with Michelle Pfeiffer's performance. But I was disappointed. Like, and I'm not knocking Michelle Pfeiffer. She's a good actress. Like, I really liked her in Ant-Man recently. I thought her role there was excellent. I've enjoyed her in other things. But after getting spoiled on the animated series growing up, comparing her to the actress and just the writing, the acting of the woman who was the animated series Catwoman, I was like, no, not as good. Sorry. Which I think may have predated Batman Returns. So the animated series, I think, started either right before, I think, 91. I don't know if Catwoman was in episodes before Batman Returns came out. I'm not totally sure. But regardless, she's a better Catwoman than Michelle Pfeiffer. But yeah, just all around, like, Zoe Kravitz, excellent performance. But it's also the writing, the directing, the cinematography, all so much better. Sorry, Tim Burton. Like, I enjoy some of your stuff. And I know, and once again, obviously Matt Reeves is building on a legacy, and Tim Burton was an important part of that. Like, he got the ball rolling we might not have a movie like this had there not been Batman and Batman Returns. I kind of wish there hadn't been Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. I'm sure George Clooney wishes there hadn't been Batman and Robin either. But thankfully, Christopher Nolan came along and resurrected the live-action Batman world with Batman Begins. Like, when I saw that was one of the, believe it or not, that was, even though I'm almost 40, that was one of the first movies I saw in the theater, because as I mentioned in my currently unavailable original first episode, where I shared a little bit more about myself, like, I grew up conservative religious background, and one of the things that was a facet of our life is that we didn't go to the theater growing up. So as a consequence, like, when I became an adult, I slowly started going to see movies in the theater. Like, I just fell in love with it, and I still my favorite format to see a movie like this in. If it's a more intimate, character piece, depending on what the cinematography is like if it's a really good cinematography, then I enjoy that on the big screen too. But movies like this, yes, that's my favorite format. I do finally have a decent sized TV now at my house, so I'm gonna enjoy things like this more, like once I get like the Blu-ray or the 4K, things like that. Anyway, so Batman and Catwoman, outstanding. Let's see. Yeah, like I loved, like, yeah, she did an amazing job. Zoe did. Like, there's vulnerability there with her as well. Just enough of the caginess and the playing around. Now that I'm comparing her to Anne Hathaway was a little over the top with the playing around by comparison. Zoe felt more real, more down to earth. Like, her character felt more like a real person, honestly. And again, it's a credit, not just to her performance, but also to the writing, the directing, the cinematography. And I'm not bashing Anne Hathaway. Like, Anne Hathaway's an amazing actress. Loved her performance in Les Miserables, for instance. She's very talented. And I enjoyed her Catwoman performance. But yeah, like, this one was better. Sorry, Anne. Zoe did a better job. As did Matt Reeves as director. Just all the way around. Better film. Not bashing Nolan's. I love Nolan's films. The Dark Knight, as I said, was my favorite. I think my favorite live-action Batman film until I saw this one tonight. And this one surpasses it by quite a bit. Oh yeah, Paul Dano. I need to talk about the villain's performance. So I got 3 minutes left. Obviously, I'm going to do a deeper dive. I'm probably going to do a tandem episode with my friend, and we'll do a little bit deeper dive and go back and forth on it with each other. Looking forward to that. Anyway, so Paul Dano. Sorry, Paul, I left you to the end here. Paul Dano's performance was awesome. Just enough for the crazy, but you also saw the scared little boy. Like, both he and Batman, and obviously that was intended. Like, there's a synergy between the two of them. They were both orphans. Obviously, Paul Dano was a poor orphan whose life got worse, and due in no small part to the fact that Bruce Wayne's parents were killed. And he talked about that Bruce Wayne, this is in a much darker way than in The Dark Knight Rises, where it deals some with that, with like the Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character and stuff, like, in a much darker way. He's like, you had it easy, Bruce, basically, sitting up there in your tower with all your wealth. What it really means to be an orphan is, what I went through, where you got 30 kids to a room, and where every winter at least one baby dies because it's so cold. He's like, we got forgotten, we got neglected. And I love that he kind of like raises up an army. I'm not sure if everybody in his army was also an orphan, but like, he got like 500 followers to all, join him in the final. Not all 500 of them were there, I don't think, but like a lot of people showed up to help him at the end. So you see, in his own way, like, he was seeking justice and vengeance as well. Obviously his methods were not the best. And you see the sociopathy at work in him as well, and I love some of the choices he made, like he was kind of all over the place with his voice, which he did a really good job with that, I thought. His physicality was good. You you saw the maniacal side, you saw the crazy, but you also saw the little boy. Like there's a point where, like, I think the final scene where he's like kind of, as everything's falling apart, his plan was falling apart, like he's moaning. He sounds like a scared little boy in there moaning. And it's just the synergy there is great. Penguin, I think, was Colin Farrell. I need to look at that again, but I believe Colin Farrell played the Penguin. Couldn't tell it was him. I mean, obviously he had a lot of makeup on, but like also just his performance was great. So much better than Danny DeVito. Sorry, Danny. It's not all your fault either, but your Penguin sucked. I'm sorry. My favorite Penguin was, again, the animated series Penguin up to this point. Yes, and I did see a little bit of Gotham. Sorry. Oswald Cobblepot, the refined gentleman that was in the animated series, was my favorite Penguin. But it was great seeing live action Penguin again. I think there's only been 3, actually. There was the guy from the 1960s TV series. I enjoyed his performance, and that was supposed to be over the top. And I thought he did great, actually. Danny DeVito, over the top in the wrong way. It just didn't work. It was disgusting, frankly. Didn't work. Sorry. But yeah, the animated series, Penguin, great. But Colin Farrell, I would say, definitely my favorite live-action Penguin performance, for sure. And I don't know who played again, it's a little ambiguous whether it's the Joker or Two-Face. I think it's probably the Joker. Oh yeah, one final thing I'm going to talk about, and I'll talk about this more with my friend, but there at the end, like, with there being martial law declared with the flooding and stuff, I was getting excited. Like, when the explosions started happening, I was like, oh shit, the next movie's going to be No Man's Land. It's going to, and I think that's coming. Like, I think they're going to borrow heavily from No Man's Land in the next film, which I'm fucking excited about, because once again, really good graphic novel. And actually, it was a novel, which is where I first experienced it. I read the novel No Man's Land, written by Greg Rucka, I believe. Excellent. I think the graphic novel may have come after. And then somebody also dramatized it in a podcast. I need to find that again, which was really well done. Like, it was just amateur, like fan produced, not for money kind of thing. But I loved it. I need to find that again if it's still on. And I'll try to put the link down in there. But yeah, like, I think that's what's coming next, and I'm excited. Like, I'm really excited. So, if you haven't guessed by now, I'm a Batman fan. It is the one realm of comics that I'm very familiar with, that I can speak to. I haven't gotten into very many other, I've read a few here and there, never have gotten much into Marvel, to be honest with you. Just a little bit here and there, every now and then. I will eventually, I think we're leading up. I actually want to try to read some more leading up to the Doctor Strange film, but that's another topic for another day. So for tonight, I'm going a little over my intended goal, so I'm gonna stop and call it a night. My buddy recorded his instant reaction last week. His name is Will, so I'll be putting that out as an episode as well. Might combine these two together into one episode. We'll figure out how to do that, and then he and I will, at some point soon, we'll do a joint episode together where we do a deeper dive and just enjoy talking about this amazing film. Maybe we'll go see it again and then do it after that. I don't know. We'll see. It's definitely worth seeing twice. And, so good. Such a good movie. So, The Batman. If you haven't seen it yet, get your ass to the theater. Go see it. You will not regret it. I don't care if you're a Batman fan. Go see it. It's an amazing movie. You will enjoy it, regardless of whether you've ever liked the Batman before now. You will after you get out of this movie. You want to go read the comics. So, Long Halloween, check that out first. It's awesome. Catwoman's in it. Carmine Falcone's in it. It's Batman Year 1, Year 2. get in there too. The Court of Owls, No Man's Land if you want to get ready. The novel, I recommend the novel actually, by Greg Rucka. So read that if you want to find out what might be coming next. Obviously they're not going to rip it right out of the storyline, but they're going to borrow from it. Hush, another awesome series. So if you haven't gotten into Batman comics, those are good recommendations. Like if you want to read stuff that's come out in like the last 20 years, that's really good. All of that, man. Good stuff. So anyway, this is your friendly neighborhood nerd. No, wrong one. This is okay, I'm going to go out with a little bit of Batman. I am the night. I am vengeance. I am the shadows. I am Batman.